Okay, we're continuing with the book, The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Peter Rogers. We're going in alphabetical order. Actually, I got Dr. McDougall quotes here. I've done separate talks on Dr. McDougall quotes, but I had a couple in this book, so I just figured I'll do them because I'm going through it in order. Okay, so McDougall, he's Irish. He lived from 1947 to 2024, just died last year in June. He worked at a Seventh-day Adventist hospital for many years. He's considered by many people, including myself, the greatest doctor who ever lived. He says, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. The biggest toxin in the Western diet is the excessive amount of fat. Hunter-gatherers were mostly gatherers. Starch is a better name than complex carbohydrate. Complex carbohydrate confuses people. You could live only on potatoes. Potatoes come from the ground. Potatoes are a complete food. Potatoes grow well in harsh climates. Potatoes grow faster on less land than most other foods. Potatoes and beans provide the most nutrients per dollar spent. All of type 2 diabetes is cured with a potato or a sweet potato diet. If I only had one food, it would be the potato. Potatoes and sweet potatoes are about the same in nutrients. Okay, he has got a very good 2 lectures. They're called the Mastermind Lectures on Potatoes, parts 1 and parts 2. He talks about people who only ate potatoes for 6 months and did very well on that. Let's see. He said if you haven't tried only eating sweet potatoes for 4 months, you haven't tried everything possible with nutritional therapy. Some people would add, also try fasting for a while, like the True North stuff with Dr. Goldhamer. Anyways, John McDougall, coffee is not a health food. It is best to avoid it, but insist on having it. But if you insist on having it, it's not that big of a deal. Try to drink the cup or two early in the day. Yeah, a lot of people are very addicted to their coffee. It causes hyperlipidemia, causes increased blood pressure, causes a lot of problems. He quoted his friend, Dr. Heimlich, who said, if everyone understands you, then you're not being creative enough. He writes about the story of his time working as an internal medicine doctor in Hawaii, how he worked on the big plantation and he also worked in the city. And the plantation workers were healthier than the city workers. So the plantation workers, manual laborers, less educated, but they were eating the old-fashioned plant-based diets like rice-based diet, and they were skinny and healthy. And these Filipino guys would go back to the Philippines when they would retire at age 65. They would get a bride in her 20s, and they'd raise a whole new family with no Viagra or anything. They lived till their late 80s typically. Versus, he says, the people in Hawaii living in the city, eating the high-fat, westernized diets, they would be, fat, sick, and impotent, coronary artery disease, high rates of cancer in their 60s. Okay, he says, the most common reason people fail when they try to become vegan is that they keep eating oils, or they don't eat enough starch, or they eat too much of the same thing and it's not enough variety to satisfy their hunger, their palatability. Yeah, so basically starch is easy to eat, like rice is like water, okay? And you can eat tons of oatmeal. You can eat plenty of beans. I don't like to eat too much beans, but you can. They're easy to eat. Potatoes take a little effort to eat. They fill you up pretty fast. Sweet potatoes are easier to eat than regular potatoes. Quinoa is good. The different types of grains are good. I like them single ingredient. You can have single ingredient pastas like with wheat and stuff. They're good. T. Colin Campbell had said that isolated substances are not food, they're pharmacology. Okay, fair enough. Talked about, Pritikin and him were interested, especially Pritikin and the Tarahumara. They're just eating corn, beans, squash, and about 80% of their calories from starch. They had no coronary artery disease, normal blood pressure. Okay, McDougall said, writing his newsletter. He wrote a newsletter that came out, about once a month or so. And he said that kept him learning. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. I know that you can get into a rut just doing what you do daily for your, to make your money, so to speak. But when you have to keep giving lectures and presentations and writing books, you're constantly reading, or writing a newsletter, you're constantly reading to try to make the newsletter good, or the book, or the lecture. Okay, he basically describes the 2 biggest poisons of the Western diet are the animal foods and the high amounts of fat, especially the oils. Breast milk is only 5% of protein, Dr. McDougall says, and it's the most rapid phase of growth in our lives when we're babies. Adults don't need that much protein, probably in the ballpark of around 3%. I've heard other times people say as much as 5%, but it's really a minimal amount. I think it's probably closer to 3 or 4%. And it could be less than that because, Kempner was feeding people around 3%, and he wasn't giving them keto analogs that I'm aware of or essential amino acid supplements. So you really don't need much protein. I give an entirely separate lectures on all that stuff. Okay. Well, then McDougall calls out all the paleo, keto, carnivore types. He says paleo, keto, carnivore people who are lying to the public are evil. Yeah, he doesn't mince words about that. It's a big scam just to trick all the stupid pros, keep them fat and sick. And they buy it. And they get very aggressive supporters of it. A lot of them are trolls. I think a lot of them are paid by industry. There's a lot of paleo, keto, carnivore trolls. Breast milk has to be ideal or the babies would not survive. Atkins was at least 60 pounds overweight and he died of cardiac disease. He had severe coronary artery disease. He lied to the public about not having coronary artery disease. This is the opinion of Dr. McDougall here. Ketogenic diet causes initial loss of water weight. Then they start losing bodily protein. Fat burning slows down. Saturated fat causes increased insulin resistance. Yeah, it's a stupid diet. Vegan diet is almost the opposite of the ketogenic diet. Keto dieters can fail on alcohol breathalyzer test. Keto dieters tend to become fat like Dr. Atkins, Barry Sears, Cordain, and Sally Fallone. The vegans who are fat are the ones who eat vegetable oils, nuts, and avocados. Yeah, and I've had plenty of vegans tell me they can't lose the weight until they stop all the high-fat plant foods. People who try to satisfy hunger with veggies will fail. There's not enough caloric density, and they sometimes go back to eating meat. Starch is what your body needs. Starch is what satisfies your hunger. Okay, Dr. McDougall continues. Before 1980, in Asia, people ate up to 90% of their calories from rice. The most important thing is to make a starch the center of the diet. Yeah, and that's like the biggest thing McDougall figured out, is if you just eat a starch-based diet, you'll probably never get the common Western diseases because it's high in fiber, and it's got all the other stuff. It's got the potassium, it's got the magnesium, it's got the fiber. Let's see what else. Then you get a little bit of fruits and veggies to get the rest of the stuff. Simple sugars will increase your triglycerides. The worst combination is fat plus simple sugars like in ice cream. The Inuits, the Eskimos, have severe osteoporosis. All large, healthy populations eat a starch-based diet. There are no exceptions. That Terry Wall lady who claims to have had a great result with multiple sclerosis, he says she's a single case with no published data. Okay, so for what that's worth, McDougall says, fix the food and you can fix 80% of medical problems. Yeah, I've heard T. Colin Campbell say something similar, something in the ballpark of 70% or more disease he thinks is due to diet. I think it's a huge part of due to diet. I also think under-recognizes the amount of stuff due to dental problems. But there's other factors, of course. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you overexposing yourself to caffeine? Do you have excessive psychological stress? Are you getting sunshine? Do you have dental amalgams? All these other things. Are you getting EMF'd? All long-term healthy populations have a starch-based diet, no exceptions. Okay. It's difficult for the body to convert glucose into fat. It's easy to turn fructose into fat. Yeah, fructose is different. Starch is a polymer of glucose. Part of satisfying your hunger is to fill up your stomach. Plant foods have less caloric density, so they stretch your stomach with fewer calories. That provides early satisfaction of hunger. Then it takes time for the intestinal enzymes to peel off the fiber, so you get a slow absorption of the glucose, and it has the equivalence of being like a slow-release energy pill. Meat increases ILGF, so that's insulin-like growth factor, meaning that it increases your risk of cancer. I mean, what's the point of milk? To make a baby calf grow 600 pounds in 1 year? The Maasai warriors of Africa have lots of coronary artery disease, and their average age of death is only 40 years old. They have a lot of coronary artery disease. They did an autopsy study on them.
Knock, knock, coming in.
Yeah, then he said the Inuit tend to have poor health and difficult lives with an average age of death of 50 years of age. Okay. All that fish, they get a lot of osteoporosis. It's very acidic, all that animal protein. Dr. Kempner helped a lot of people with his rice diet, but he got in trouble for whipping patients who strayed from the diet. Yeah, that's a whole other story of Kempner having a harem and all that other stuff. But I'm not the only one who talked about it. Everybody in the plant world who studied Kempner knows about that, okay? That was not like some mystery that I revealed in my lecture, okay? Dr. McDougall, aluminum spray deodorants are worse because you can inhale the aluminum and it can accumulate in the olfactory system of the brain. Yeah, he felt that was, it's a major neurotoxin. Aluminum is not only a mitochondrial toxin, it's also an excitotoxin. It inhibits the plasma membrane calcium ATPase, so you can't pump the calcium out in that fashion. It inhibits the sarcoplasm, endoplasmic reticulum, calcium ATPase, so you can't pump the calcium from the cytoplasm into the endoplasmic reticulum. So you can't get your calcium levels down. Your mitochondria is not working, so you don't make enough ATP. And then your two major pumps are not working. So when the calcium accumulates in the cytoplasm, the cell stays activated, and you run the risk of even activating real harmful protease enzymes like calpain. Okay, calcium activated, painful consequences. You don't want that activated. The cell goes into apoptosis. The neuron dies. Okay, so aluminum is bad for the brain. Okay, Dr. McDougall continues, in order to get the cure, you got to stop the cause. And he says meat is animal muscle, and animal muscle is pretty much the same in all animals. So it's all about the same. There's not that much difference between fish and beef and chicken and turkey. There's a little difference, not that much. Diet is your destiny, not your genes. That's an important point. Don't say it's genetics, because that's like saying it's hopeless. Conventional medicine is great at acute care because it can remove the causative problem. It can fix an isolated problem, but it's not so good for chronic illness because the source is eating the wrong food. You got to change what you eat. Then he says, happiness comes from helping other people. Okay, so those are some Dr. McDougall quotes. I hope you found those helpful.